Hello, everyone. Welcome to Last Man Standing. I am, of course, Tyler Mumbles Woodward, and I'm joined by Emma Bon. Emma, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great actually.
Good. So we're kind of doing something a little bit different, something a little bit new. We're gonna talk. We're just gonna have a bit of a debate on sort of our favorite titles and what could be the arguably one of the worst titles as well. So let's start off with our worst titles. And for me, the worst is the Jeff Hardy TNA title, the custom title that he brought in for him. It was basically his face, basically painted face. His painted face, and I've never understood the reason behind it. I've never really liked the design either. It just doesn't looks too pointy, it looks sharp. I've got the picture in front of me here, but it just looks so jaded, if that makes sense. It just looks so jarring. It's not appealing. If that makes any sense. The purple strap, I think the only redeeming quality is the purple strap, but that belt, the face design and all that, it just doesn't look nice. What's kind of your thoughts on that one? Or do you have a worse?
Well, I want to sort of take a chance to like defend it, give like the alternate perspective to it. You know, in defense of it, first, I mean, Jeff is obviously an artist. It's in a sense artistic, but I think part of what makes the purple good was part of the joy of the face painting and all of that is the colors and how they mesh. You don't really get that feeling with the willow belt. I do like taller belts. It makes it feel more important to me. But yeah, I can definitely see why this would be a problem. We were talking a little bit before about how custom belts don't tend to ever really work.
No, it just doesn't. If say for example, someone like Bobby Lashley was to hold that, it just wouldn't look. It wouldn't look right on him. It just wouldn't. It wouldn't look nice around his waist, or they would go back to the original design, but it's just a waste of. I personally think it was just a waste of time. Just thinking of the other
custom belts. I mean, just thinking of the other custom belts in history. I mean, the FTW belts got a little bit more, but it never really worked if it wasn't sort of under Taz's auspices. One of the first wrestling DVDs I ever got was Unforgiven of 6, and that was part of the Edge and John Cena feud where Edge got the rated R spinner belt. I was a big Edge fan at the time, so that kind of looked all right to me. And that was basically like a few month belt. It was going to be hung up, and then John was going to go.
Yeah. So
I was going to go back to the spinner, which in a sense is also the spinner is in a sense also a custom belt that doesn't really work with other people.
I think they kept the spinner belt around too long. That belt should have kind of gone pretty quick. So when kind of
I will say it did work with Rob Van Dam when Rob was just entertained by it spinning.
Yeah,
that was.
And then he lost it because
he lost
it
what did they have, 10 years with it?
Yeah, it was just around for too long. That belt was synonymous with the time that I was watching wrestling anyway. But I,
Mhm.
looking back at it on a
Yeah.
retrospective, it should have gone away. It should have gone away pretty quickly. Like they got rid of, because when
Yeah.
they did the
I mean,
Cena,
that's just
because when they did the Cena US spinner title, they got rid of
Mhm.
that as soon as he lost it. But I feel like they
Mhm.
should have done
I mean, that
that with
was
this.
that was JBL binned it, didn't he?
Yeah,
When Orlando Jordan won it, they binned that. Yeah.
yeah, they
I
binned
will
it and then
say,
brought back the
like,
old design.
custom belt plates don't tend to work. I think what did work in terms of custom and giving that idea of this is your belt was Intercontinental Championship in the 90s, where you had Goldust had his gold strap, Razor Ramon, I think, had a purple strap, and just sort of different colors for everybody. That kept it looking fresh. It worked with the outfits. It worked pretty well.
Yeah,
So,
I just didn't like. So going back to the original point with the Jeff
yes,
Hardy belt.
we should probably focus
Yeah,
on, yeah.
going back to it, it just looks like a children's mask. It it, it looks like you literally put it over your
Mm-hmm.
face, and it looks like a mask. Like I'm looking at it now, and it's just like you can
Mm-hmm.
cut. It's almost like you can cut the eyes out, and it would be literally a Jeff Hardy mask. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I'd see
It's
it.
almost reminded me of if you've ever seen that the Jeff Hardy shirt where you put the shirt over your head and it has the little Jeff Hardy face on it. If you've ever
Yeah.
seen that particular piece of merch, that's sort of what it's reminding me of. Um,
Mm.
so I mean, I never really watched a ton of TNA, so I can't really talk about how it was used. If you know sort of more about how it was used in that type of thing when it
I
was around.
I think it was brought. I think it was brought in when he first originally won the title, and then they kind of got rid of it really quickly as well when they kind of really got rid of it pretty quickly right after that as well, because I don't think it just I just don't understand the concept. I'm pretty sure he was high when he picked this design. Unfortunately, just yeah, unfortunately, I just think he was a bit high
I
when
mean, you
he
could
picked
just
this
throw a dart at the
design.
calendar and you'd probably be high on that day.
Yeah, just gonna. So obviously we've spoken about.
So my work,
So we spoke about the TNA belt. What is your worst belt?
my worst belt design is probably going to be the Big Penny Tag Team
Mm.
Championships for WWE around, I think it was shortly after they combined them to, I think in the brand split around 2016. So it was between Mania 25 and I think, what would that have been, about 32? Yeah.
Yeah,
The sort of the Big Penny copper looking just a circle. What are your sort of thoughts on it, just from giving that?
unfortunately, I know no one's supposed to defend it, but I can't defend those belts. Honestly, they just look like pennies. I can't defend them. I honestly can't. I can't even defend.
Mm-hmm.
If we was to talk about
It's fair.
we was to talk about the new ones now, like the SmackDown and the Raw ones, I can't even defend those either because they are seen as second place. They are seen as the second
Mm-hmm.
place. They're seen as like the second place titles because they got silver. There's no gold in them. There's no that it just doesn't. Just don't like them. I think there needs to be a redesign. I
That's my
liked.
big thing with it. It's I'm okay with like the I guess it would be like Spartans or like the helmets clashing.
Yeah.
That's a decent tag team metaphor type of deal. It's just, as you're saying, yeah, the silver's bad, but when it was copper or when it was just the bronze, it's specifically tertiary. This is below mid-card singles. And it's kind of, it's
I'm just
all
gonna
wrapped
pause. I'm just gonna
they're just tertiary. It's a tertiary color. You can't ignore that when you see it. The only real defense of it was the actual engraving. And I think they did a nice sort of animation as it was going up, where you had the helmets clashing like before the match. But other than that, it's just bleh.
Yeah, it is. It's just I really cannot defend those titles at all. Unfortunately, I do I like tag team wrestling, but unfortunately, I just cannot defend. I just cannot defend those titles because they're so bland as well. I miss the SmackDown. I miss the SmackDown Unified, the SmackDown tag titles, the old ones, because they had the gold in it. They had the little taints.
I liked the unified idea, like when you had the people carrying around the two belts. I always think
I personally
I always think like two belts mean something.
Yeah, I personally think they need to unify the tag divisions and give them one brand new tag team design. On the other side of things, if we're going to compare tag titles, I personally love the AEW tag titles. I think the design is cool.
I haven't looked closely at the design a ton. But I'm pretty sure with how they've designed their belts, it's pretty good. What's interesting when I'm thinking about tag titles that's maybe a bit more divisive, the old NXT tag titles with like the half and half, the half gold, half black.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that idea. I think especially if you have slightly different belts for each, like basically mirror images the other person. I think that's a cool idea.
That's a cool idea, but I think if they unify the tag titles, they need to do a brand new design for them. And I just think,
what if they did like they took the idea of it's the two circles. What if they kind of made like almost like a big, almost like infinity symbol where you're bringing the circles together? Sort of. And what's your thought on sort of like big circular belts? I mean, I guess Attitude Era WWF Championship had people called it the Big Cookie.
Yeah, I don't.
What are sort of the thoughts on like big, just a circle belt?
I don't like circle belts. I think if a belt's going to be a belt, it needs to almost have this big elaborate design. It needs to look like something worth chasing. Like for example, the big gold belt. You would love to go for that belt. The undisputed title, which we'll get to a bit later. The AEW World Tag title, the AEW World title as well. Like that is just a nice belt, and I just don't understand.
Very, very big and a good design.
Yeah, it doesn't look like. How do I put it? It doesn't look like it's.
It doesn't look like it's easy to make.
It doesn't look like it's easy to bootleg.
It looks like they took some time in crafting it. Yeah. Like I can imagine someone making a machine that can easily like press out the circle. I imagine some craftsmanship has to go in to do something different like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to. It just has to make sense. You know, I don't like. It's like their tag. It's like booking their tag division. It doesn't make sense. Their titles need to make sense. They need to be worth fighting for.
I mean, it's the division has been kind of like going downward since. I mean, you think of. I mean, the way I think of it is, you had the '80s where it was pretty high. You could have a decent tag division. I think of like the first Survivor Series where you had the multi-team, like 10-team tag, and everyone had a different gimmick, everyone had a different look.
Yeah.
And through the '90s, when you had Smoking Guns and Chris Candido, the Body Donnas, and you had the Hog Farmers, Hog and Pig, the Godwins, that's who they were. It was definitely starting to go down to mid-card, a bit opener, and it just sort of kept going on that downward slope.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It's just it's just,
and, I like tag team wrestling. It's something you can't see something like that in other sports typically. I mean, you can't imagine like a tag team boxing match or a UFC fight.
No. As much as I've seen people that try to do that, you can't have like a boxing tag team match or a tag team UFC fight. I think wrestling is kind of unique in that way, because you can have these multiple different gimmick matches and different styles and matches.
It's setting up the rules.
Yeah.
It's setting up the rules and allowing just a little bit of leeway for heat. Little things. Like, actually, I think someone mentioned, I think it was Dean Ambrose or something mentioned, like, you can only break up a pin once.
Yeah.
As you get one free, and then you're not supposed to do it elsewise.
So we'll move on to best titles. I personally love the Undisputed title. The Undisputed belt, I think that is a beautiful belt, beautiful put together belt. It's got the big globe in the middle. It's got the wing. It's got like the wings. It's got the just a small WWE logo at the top. It's got the curve for the nameplate. It looks beautiful. It's a beautiful looking belt. It's one of those belts that I really want.
Do you remember if it had? Do you remember?
It's one of those belts that I really want to own.
The font in it. I remember with the big cookie, as they called it, there was the Art Deco.
So there is some
lettering. Do you remember if they sort of kept that?
So there is some like gold lettering in here. Like the champion bit is in like champion curve is like gold letters and like a black background. It doesn't have too many diamonds as well. It's not like there's about there's like 4 diamonds, 6 diamonds on the main plate, and then there's 4 for the side plates. It doesn't look too flashy. It doesn't look like I think that's one of the problems with the WWE Championships and the WWE Championship now, the Universal Championship, the SmackDown and Raw Women's titles. I feel like they're too jeweled. There's too many jewels in it, and it's the logo. The logo is so front and center as well. The WWE logo is so front and center.
The big logo is
the big network logo is so front and center. It's a nice design, don't get me wrong.
I can definitely see that. Yeah.
It just feels like you're carrying the company around. It doesn't feel like you're carrying a title around. And they market that belt so many with different things, with the different where they give it to like someone if they won the NBA playoffs or something like that, they'll give them the title and all
Yeah.
that. It just doesn't. There's no prestige. It feels like it's just a marketing ploy. I feel with that title, with the undisputed title,
It's prestigious in only the way they. It's only prestige is that it's how they talk about it. It does not look prestigious in a vacuum.
no.
So, and we started off with a bit of the defense of the bad belts. I'm going to give a bit of an attack on the good belt. I kind of felt that it wasn't big enough. I tend to like large belts. I associate the bigger the belt with more prestige. But I think it fit pretty well on Eddie Guerrero, which, I mean, the belt lasted, you went Brock, I think Big Show for a little bit, back to Brock, Eddie, then JBL, and that was it.
And then it was Cena, and then Cena held it until he changed it to the spinner belt. So it wasn't around for very long. I feel like that's made the heart grow fonder. It wasn't there for a while. It wasn't around, but they also did do. There was two. I believe there's two versions of the title. One of them was a bit smaller, and then they did a version 2, which was a bit bigger. So I think they changed it around.
That might be part of my
Around the time Brock had it, I believe they brought the version 2 out where it was a bit bigger, and it suited Brock. It suited Brock. It suited Eddie. It suited the Big Show. It suited Undertaker as well. It suited the people that held the title.
It was very much a serious belt. Well, I don't think. Well, maybe I could have wanted more gold to be a bit more bigger. It was definitely a very serious belt. I could see, collegiate champion Brock Lesnar holding that and walking around and making that.
It's a clean looking title. That's.
I can see that.
What
was his? I'm pretty sure it was Brock who said, or it was like Brock, Hogan, or Taker. It's just I'm not carrying around 2 belts. What's interesting when I'm thinking of 2 belts, I think of
it doesn't surprise me.
When I think of 2 belts, I think of with Jericho, but both Jericho with the 2 belts when he was undisputed champion. Did you know he was the first undisputed champion ever? Yeah, he was the first.
Yeah.
And he beat The Rock and Stone.
I think he lost
one night. Did you know that?
I know.
He said it about 900 times. Yeah.
I feel like every time he says it, you should just start singing Judas in your head, because it's just he likes to say that all the time. I'm pretty sure he said it. I'm pretty sure he subtly said it.
I mean,
on
they didn't
TV.
treat him seriously, so he's gonna get all he can out of that reign.
Yeah.
They weren't gonna do.
So
I mean, milk it in that sense.
So what is your favorite belt? What do you think is the best belt?
So this is why I wanted to make the video. The best belt, almost purely on design, just the physics and how this belt is designed, I will say, is Dragon Gate's Open the Dream Gate Championship. And it's a little unfamiliar to most, so I'm going to have some pictures come up in the editing. I've shown them to you.
Yeah, I've got it here.
The thing about this belt is you'll see it kind of has this sort of inner nameplate behind sort of this gate that you open with a key. And the nameplate is inside, and you'll also notice this bar under the belt. Basically what happens is, if you are a number one contender for this belt, you're given a key. The key opens to Dreamgate. If you win, you open it, you put your nameplate in, and you are the new champion. However, if you lose, you give the key to the champion who puts it on the bar. So if you're a champion who has a ton of defenses, you're eventually gonna have 3, 4, 5 keys on the belt. It may seem a little hokey, but to me, I just think of Old West lawman with notches on his belt for all the men he's killed.
Yeah. It does. I don't watch Dragon Gate, but I believe we have spoken about this belt before within our group chat. We have spoken about this belt before, and I do like the design of there being just this key that opens it up and it shows the nameplate. I do like that. This is me putting my kind of like hat on with it. I don't think it would work in, say, an American promotion. It seems very it is what it's made for a Japanese audience. And I think that's what makes it good, because it works for a Japanese audience. I wouldn't say it works for the mainstream wrestling like the AEWs, the WWE. I don't think it would work within a mainstream company, but in Dragon Gate it works.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon Gate is an example. It's kind of one of the minor Japanese things, so it's kind of in the minor in the Japanese. I would say it kind of, just the idea of collecting and showing defenses, that to me speaks, I think it would speak very much to like Smartmart.
Yeah.
I think AEW, if they did something in a sense to count defenses, maybe on the TNT belt, I think that would be, that could catch on maybe a little bit.
I think I've had an idea. So I've always thought about this idea of, if I was ever to design a belt or anything like that, it would be a small logo of the company right in the middle. Well, small, like quite a big one, but like it would be a big belt anyway. And on every title defense the champion has, they have to scribble. They almost have to inscribe the guy's name that they've just beaten into it. And when they lose the title, it's almost like a clean slate. And yes, it's probably a bit expensive because it's a belt. Probably have about 20 odd defenses, then lose it, and then you've got to get a new belt to do it.
I could see a bit like, I think the old IWGP Heavyweight Championship, you had like the past champion on the side with the little nameplates of all the, I think you could possibly do that with, what I thought of is, I do have a bit of the local promotion. If I was ever given, specifically in a situation where I was given a belt where I would be the last champion because they were going to get a new belt, I would have this idea of basically doing that old West lawman thing where I was actually taking a knife and putting a notch in it of, this is how many people I've beat. I mean, if you're not going to reuse the belt, you can abuse it a little bit, but that kind of, and it's like, it's a little bit smarky. It's a little bit, Americana, Old West type of deal.
Yeah, I think as well, you could almost have something that racks up type. It almost looks like you are racking up these title defenses. There needs to, I think that's what works with this Open Dreamgate Championship, is where there is, you're basically getting the key of the number one contender and say, I've beaten you, now go do something else, almost. it kind of hangs over the number one contender.
That's the other factor to it. It's you're identifying the number one. Yeah. You identify the number one. That person leaves, you get a new number one.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, it's not their world title.
No.
So it's kind of, it's just a separate thing. So it's maybe people who don't win, there's other things to do, but it has its own flavor to it. It's like, this feels special.
Yeah. I do want to give an honorable mention to the current X Division title. I like the design of the X Division title. I've been on record to say I never used to watch Impact. I used to hate Impact with a passion from the Hogan days of it, the Dixie Carter days as well. I just didn't like the title at the end of the day. I didn't like the promotion, so I didn't like the titles. But the current X Division title, I think it's nice, and it looks awesome on Josh Alexander. He's probably one of my favorite guys in Impact right now.
I don't really watch Impact and that type of thing, so I'm not really familiar with it. But
yeah,
it must be good. I mean, if I can give an honorable mention, I might have to say NWA Women's Championship. The uniqueness of having the picture of the champion on it, I think it's unique enough, but I think it gives that. I think with all sort of custom belts, with things like that, it feels weird when you have the challenger win, because it's that one moment when you have them holding up someone else's face.
Yeah, I think that's another thing with the WWE Championship, where they've got the custom side plates. You are just holding up the title with custom side plates on it that are not even your side plates. So that's where I can agree with you on that, because it doesn't feel like your title yet.
I guess a great way to end this, if we were to design a sort of idealized last man standing belt, what design, you have whatever choices, what are we taking from the best to put onto this?
So I would like to have, I have thought about this, of getting a custom belt made, but we're not, obviously hit the subscribe button at the bottom, because when we're big enough, we can get a custom belt made. We can get,
maybe set that as a subscriber goal.
Yeah. That's going to be a subscriber goal. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will get a custom belt made. There we go. That is the challenge. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, we will get a custom belt made. But if I was to design it, it would almost look like a little bit like the Undisputed belt, but instead of it being the globe, it would be the Last Man Standing logo on it, and then in the top bit, it would have like a small logo on it. I'd have on the side plates, just because obviously with the factions that we've got within Last Man Standing, like one of the side plates would be the MWO logo, and the other side it would be the First Class logo. And I'd also like to put all of our names on it as well. That would be nice, just to put our kind of.
That would also be good. I'm a big fan of like logos as side plates. It's a bit backtracking to it, but it's another favorite of mine. The red NWA television title, where you had the TV logos for NBC or CBS, ABC on the side. That kind of speaks to me. That feels like a thing you can put on a side plate that works.
I would like to get like the custom site, like the name, like our name plates as well made. But I would also like to have all of our names like kind of inscribed on the belt itself, because it's it's basically just a belt that we it's a belt that we've kind of almost made together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we've got the
like
other.
that a lot.
And then we've also got the tag belts. We've got the that would be the
Right.
universal title. We've also got we've already got the trophy. Andrew's already got the trophy. It's his house. I'll put the picture in the edit of that. But we already have that, but we also have got, because we're just using a universal title for now. But I would like, when we hit that goal. So if everyone's watching this, subscribe to Last Man Standing, because we want to get a custom belt made, and that's how I'd make it look. It would have everyone's name on it, everyone that's been part of Last Man Standing. Like, I would love to have them be put on this belt and synonymized with the YouTube channel, you know.
Yeah.
That's just how I would do it.
So I think we're pretty much good here.
Yeah.
I'd say if you can leave a comment on what other types of discussions you'd like to see here, maybe a best year or other types of things. We'll hopefully have more people in another time, kind of have a bit of a longer discussion with this. I thought it went pretty well.
Yeah. So yeah, again, like, subscribe at the bottom, comment down below what you think is the best belt, what do you think is the worst belt, you know, what other things you'd like us to discuss as well. And Emma, thank you very much for coming on. And guys, we shall see you on the next one.
Bye.